Well, earlier in the program, we heard from Common Ground volunteer Anita Keys about canning and food preservation, and that interview will be on our Facebook page a little bit later.
Now Anita is sharing a recipe with us. In this segment, she shows us how to make chokecherry jelly.
Well, in certain parts of the state, you are certain to find choke cherries, and you may be getting ready to make some of that jelly that's so good. And joining me now with more on this, some ideas on how to do it, is Anita Keys with Common Ground. Anita, what do you have?
Chokecherry jelly. And I will also warn people, be careful what you ask for. I put on the radio, I was looking for chokecherries. I got so many calls, come pick them, come pick them. And this was a good chokecherry year. Maybe you picked them and you put them in your freezer. Now, when I do that, I like to wash them and lay them out to dry so that they are clean berries when I put them in the freezer. Does that make sense? Then I freeze them. And then when I thaw them out, well, then they start to seep in the bag. Well, if you've got dirt in that bag, you can't use that wonderful juice that's already there. I like to have them all washed up, like I said, and then you put those in a kettle and you put some water on them and you just sort of let that steam, let the berries pop, and the juice will obviously turn all pretty color. And then the pulp, you strain that out, and then you've got clean juice. So you get your jars ready. It just has to be something that's an inch or two water above your jar. And when you're talking jelly jars, those aren't real tall, so it doesn't have to be terribly tall. So you be sure to use the measurements that the recipe says. Now, this recipe has 3.5 cups of chokecherry juice, and you put that in your kettle. Then you stir pectin into the juice, bring that to a boil. Then you add the sugar. So the sugar was 4 cups of sugar, and then it starts to boil again after that sugar gets dissolved in there. Does that make sense? And so you boil, and then you set the timer, boil it for 1 minute. Okay, then we've got these hot jars sitting here. We pour it into the jars, and remember how much? It was 1/4 inch of the headspace. Place the hot lids, and then you put a ring on the jar. This obviously is cold because this jar is going to be piping hot, and so will the lid. This won't be, but so I'll often use a towel or something under that. And then you screw the lid on, and it just said finger tight. Then immediately you put them in your big boiling water bath. Then boil 10 minutes. Now here, my recipe said 5, but I had to add 5 minutes because I'm at 3,000 altitude. When you're done with that time, leave it in the canner for 5 minutes. Okay, then remove the jars from the canner. So you use the little canner and remove them from the canner. And I just set them on the counter. It says to cool 12 hours out of a draft. So don't put them in a fan so they cool really fast. And you'll hear this pop, pop, pop noise, which is kind of like music for those of us that like to can. That's when the lid is popping. It's sealed. And so that happens after it's sitting out. As it cools, pop, the lid will seal. And I store them without the band on it. You can enjoy your chokecherry jelly. I market these. We also enjoy eating them. Try some jelly.
Okay, thank you, Anita, for being here today.